Hi everyone and welcome back. I'm so happy to be coming on today and talking to you all about the oncoming Aries season and about the astrological new year that we're going into on March 20th and March 21st, depending on your time zone of 2021. Thank you guys so much for coming onto my channel and checking it out today. I'm really looking forward to diving into the energy. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, as many of you know, to plan out some new content and really look into the future of the channel. And I already have some really cool things that I'm working on. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button below and turn on those bell notifications. There are also some really useful links in the description box. I'm on Patreon, where I'm currently doing weekly forecasts, even on my hiatus. So if you want more content, check that out. And I also have a link from Keen if you're looking to get any private sessions with other advisors. It's a really good service. So those two links are below. But without further ado, everyone, let's take a deep dive here right at the end of Pisces season as I'm coming into you and moving into Aries season. A deep dive and then a pioneering spirit forward is what we're kind of moving into energetically. But let's see what is coming in. So this is one of the most essential energetic times of the year. The transition from Pisces season to Aries season is like the true energy of a new year. You know, we have our calendar new year on January 1st, but March 20th, March 21st, that equinox point is really astronomically much more tuned with what would be like a restart or a new beginning or a new takeoff point. So I just want to give you guys a heads up that around the end of March, especially after we're getting our sea legs after Pisces season, so by like March 25th, March 26th, there should be a very new spark of energy coming in, and you really should start to see that you're thinking about things a little bit differently, and that your mind might actually be embracing what you currently have a lot more. One of the main spiritual issues that I was feeling coming up throughout Pisces season was a desperate need to change or a desperate need to transcend previous painful patterns and a need for suffering to predominate in a way and really motivate shifts or motivate a transcension process. And ultimately, if I could attach a word to this year cycle that we're moving into on March 21st, it is transcend. Transcension is a big key word. And that's because we have Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius pretty much all of this year. And we have a lot with Neptune getting so advanced in Pisces. It's a very advanced transcending process that we're going through right now. But there are other aspects that are really pleading with us to fix what we have and to also be grateful and nurture and stand with the momentum that we're on. So there's a bit of a crux point, I feel, moving into this new year where crossroads, I suppose is a way to put it, but it's not quite that delineated. It's more of a spherical almost movement. Crossroads is too angular. It's more of a varying emotional movement that we're going through in our experience that's leading us in different directions, pulling us kind of like a tug of war almost, to like want maybe a more expensive lifestyle on one hand, or to want maybe a totally different location or a totally different relationship or some sort of huge monolithic upending experience to drastically change your life, because that's sort of associated with transcending, you know, having a huge physical material change in life. So that's one edge of it. And the other edge of it is finally being grateful for what you have and finally understanding that the way that things have been is now right. Okay. So there's been a very strong sort of collective similarity, I'm going to call it, where many of us sort of feel this powerful need to change our lives, or this powerful need to gain more and more autonomy and independence in our own lives. And through that, we can abandon and sacrifice the benefits that we already have or the momentum that we already have. And that to me feels like essentially the spectrum or the scale of the energy that we're stepping into. How much are you willing to let go of and relinquish in order to change your life? How much also like pain and restriction and are you willing to implement into your like daily experience in order to facilitate a shift? You know, I'm kind of seeing a lot of people go into major like regimes in their life, like a huge all-encompassing dietary regime, financial regime, business regime, like these like systems, these personally implemented systems that create changes. You know, like the process of aligning teeth becomes something much more, just as a hypothetical, like as you maybe straighten your teeth or align your teeth, it's a lot more of a trial than you previously thought. And you're like, yeah, it'll be easy to go through that process. But then once you're in it, it becomes like a very tedious thing. But you're still like kind of pushing to that result. It's the same with something like forming a business. It's like, I really believe in this business, or I really believe in this projection of my energy, but at the same time, now I have to really become a jack of all trades. I have to really, do a lot of expenditures to make this work. It's like what it actually takes to achieve a goal becomes a little bit different this year, okay? And I dare say that it becomes a little bit more tedious. Goal reaching starts to become a little bit more tedious this year. And if you're feeling that, it is a sign that maybe you need to think about the satisfaction in your current present moment versus the need to really drastically change things. I just keep feeling this like drastic change mechanism, like drastically change, transcend, move away, restructure, redefine, reform at like all costs type of energy coming in. And it is pretty exhausting for some people. And a lot of people have actually just gotten to a level of normality or a level of safety. And I think that's interesting that once a level of safety or normality is achieved, that then there's a need to sacrifice that. And though striving for something better, striving for something maybe more in alignment with who you are, also it makes the level of safety less. So that's an interesting juxtaposition that we're facing right now, is like, what is safety in our lives? What is stability and security? And is it valuable enough to satisfy us, Maybe not. So this value of security is really coming up in this new year, and a lot of us can get the needed energy to create a lot more security. It is possible to generate security, and I kind of think that that's a lot of our motivation in these changes that we're making. But we got to really ask ourselves if they're really going to get us there. If the changes that we're making, personally, are going to get us to a level of safety, or is this like more of a fear of lack of change also, creating a tendency to just change everywhere and never maintain stability. So it's just something to sit with personally. Something else that we need to really think about also, as we are coming slowly full circle with, I believe, is the impact of the pandemic, the changes in culture relating to that, our relationships with our homes, our sense of safety within our homes, our sense of solitude, our sense of isolation, our sense of development of relationship with the self in regards to that global experience is something also that should start to shift a little bit with this new year coming on. So that means different things for different people. But to me, what I'm understanding from it is that the lessons really have to get checked off. If you can imagine going down a to-do list and checking things off, that's a lot of what this oncoming year is about. The ox stuff, like it's like to-do lists. It's kind of busy, but it's like receiving what is needed to get those things checked off. And with that huge global experience, there should be a new connection with the self, a very strong illumination of addictive cycles, a very strong illumination of any type of like mental illness or struggle within emotional compartmentalization should be so clear to the point that you can very clearly define it and like check it off. So before the pandemic, before going through 2020, I had a very strong reliance on restaurants or food industry or service industry. And I could not care for myself. Before that, I had a very, sort of hot and cold experience of emotions, and I didn't really see that until I was, alone more in that type of clarity. There should sort of be a feeling of full circle with like what your experience of 2020 was coming in at this time as well, and also the progress that you've made therein as well. So now I know that I have a tendency to strongly rely on restaurants. Now I know that I have a tendency to strongly rely on social interaction and crowds to keep me, unaware of myself. Like there should be like but like very deep just understandings of ourself at a much stronger level, because as we know, what it means whenever we go into a phase of solitude or into a phase of less social connection and interaction, this happens in everybody's life, pandemics or not, in seasons, okay? It's a part of the human experience that in some chapters of our life we are more social butterflies, and in other chapters we're more solitary. And these solitary chapters, kind of like the Hermit card, always indicate a level of illumination and realization of self-tendencies, personal tendencies that may have gone unseen and therefore become like unwieldy or operating in the background in a troublesome way had we not had that solitude. So the quicker that we can come to terms with our negative, problematic tendencies at the self level towards society, I think the quicker that issues with the pandemic will resolve, and I think that will create more connectivity. But it is interesting also how new forms of connectivity are flourishing, like this, like YouTube, like and there are even more, and I'm actually looking at this too for my next series of live premieres that I'm doing. I'm looking at new levels of connectivity, and it's really cool to see some of the technology coming through. I'm rambling a little bit with this, but do check out the Discord as well. That's another great example of a way that you can get social interaction in a safe community, away from if you're not able to really move. And I know it's different in many different regions of the world. Some regions are really opening up. Some are still quite restricted. So keep in mind that these videos are, consumed by people from many different countries. So it's hard to I can't obviously spend time talking about every region. But what I do know is that globally we have in common a pulling back from social crowd integration and a focus on the self, and then a focus on new, completely innovative forms of connectivity. So with that in mind, that's very Aquarian, very much indicative and reminiscent of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. It will totally reform our societal understanding of integration with others, connectivity with others, networking with others. Grouping and networking will become totally revitalized this year and start to take on completely new technological advances as well. So we think that with social media, the way it is now, or the way that we understand it, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of those, Twitter, those things will start to feel archaic, and those things may start to feel outdated in a way as new types of connectivity rise up and are created soon. And how those then interact will be an interesting thing to see. And I'm sensing a bit of turmoil there. I'm sensing that many people become a bit disenchanted with it, though at the same time they don't stop and they don't disconnect from it either. So that's again reminiscent of that sort of crux point that I was talking about earlier, where it's not a crossroads. It's not as delineated as a crossroads. It's like a sphere. Like on one hand, we might know that okay, social media is having a negative impact on my life, but it's an integral part of my connectivity with my family or my friends. And without it, I know that I will be completely disconnected. So that's troublesome. That's a troublesome spiritual knot. Not even spiritual, but I would say just what would I classify that as? It's like a societal norm knot where on one hand, many of us have a toxic relationship with social media, though we enjoy the consumption of it and we enjoy certain types of content as it is on it as well. You might enjoy this YouTube channel, but be unwilling to watch another type of genre of YouTube channels. You know, it's not a wholesome thing. And I'm just kind of talking around kind of the what would I say? It's like the juxtaposition of a lot of things in human life right now, which deals with not in outright rejecting something, but at the same time feeling that it's toxic and also not understanding what creates it or what impact it's really having, but really involving oneself in it. It's sort of like, it's very Neptunian. It deals with the advanced Neptune and Pisces that we have right now. We've just come through Pisces season. And what I'm thinking is that as we move into the astrological new year, we're all of a sudden probably going to get a lot more grounded and maybe individualistic. I'm sensing a lot of people maybe on one hand reforming their identity and how they come off to the people around them. Big identity changes, changes in appearance, changes in cosmetic projection, like people wearing different types of styles, people wearing, colors or styles that they've never worn before, and really starting to identify within style changes, but also their connection to connectivity, their connection to social media, to me, starts to really change with this oncoming astrological new year. And something else that I need to go into at the intuitive level before we get into, Aries season and specific astrology transits is the need for pivot, or the need for seeing a difference in your experience. So I talked quite a lot about this in the comprehensive 2021 video, which I'll link below and in the top right hand corner. It's a really great video that kind of goes more into like the year itself and into like messages for each sign. Okay. But what I saw cumulatively through that video and through thinking about each sign in 2021 was a need for just really being able to feel a difference, or really being able to sense that the momentum was doing you well, or the momentum that you had or were creating was giving you a result or giving you some type of leg up as compared to where you were. So basically, even if you're not trying to transcend hardcore, or you're not trying to really upend your life and make a total shift like a lot of people are trying to do, there still needs to be some type of difference. Like in this job or in this business or in this relationship, I can now really feel what it's given me. I can now really see the difference now as compared to a few years ago. What we kind of want to watch out for this year, the only area that we can really go wrong with this year, is honestly maintaining the exact same level of output and refusing to give ourselves the difference. So in that new job or in that new career, for instance, living beyond your means and recreating the same level of financial scarcity that you had before you had the nice job is a huge problem for this year. And I see a lot of people kind of sinking into that as well. It's interesting how that works. And that's an interesting kind of psychology that people get into, where they think, okay, I have more money, or I have this career success, so I can have a lot of nice things in my life. And it comes from a good place, but it ends up chaining you to the career, because then you've got to pay for it. So I'm seeing a lot of people really give their lives a lot of advantage by, yes, having the nice career, but then also even living beneath their means a little bit so that they can really get ahead. It's a great year to get ahead in some way or another. That's not even just necessarily money, but getting ahead of your healing process as well. Knowing that you're healthy enough to eat more carelessly, but still choosing to eat carefully so that you get ahead of your health. Knowing that you're making more money, but choosing to be very wise with that surplus so that you get ahead. Knowing that, you don't have to do anything right now, and you could wait until later to do that, test or that paper or whatever it is, but choosing to do it now so that you get ahead of your degree or your program. That's a really great thing for us in this oncoming year, to basically get ahead of problems, or to not be upended by sudden crisis or sudden problems that come up through procrastination, having to do that full paper within 24 hours, having to pay that credit card bill and it being like 3/4 of your paycheck. Stuff like that is a very, very hard, very discouraging this year, because most of us have leveled up. And if we level up and we're not sensing value or sensing abundance within that, it makes us not understand what the point of it was. Okay, it makes us feel like there was a pointlessness to our hard-hitting, hard work, ambitious, goal-oriented, eye of the tiger moments that just ended up in us having like a nicer car with a nicer brand, but that still does the same thing, but now we have less money in our pocket than before we had the job, type of thing. Like it's harsh. That is very harsh, and I think a lot of people might be going through that right now. And if you're in that situation and it's already happened and you're already there and you're already sensing like, wow, I've really fallen for like psychological marketing, or I've really fallen for the idea that my appearance or my physique had to look like another person's, and I've spent a lot of money and really made myself emotionally unwell to force my body into a shape that's not my own. Anything along these lines requires what do I want to say? It's really hard to know what to do with that right now, but there are options. There are things which can bring comfort. It is sometimes in those moments that soulmate comes in, or that romantic relationship kind of comes in to save you, but beware, sometimes those don't last, because the connecting point to it is very fragile and based on a level of pain. So they might not be permanent relationships, but it's still meaningful. Okay. That can happen. Another thing that can happen is it's basically like the energy of scouting. Okay, so whether a new romantic relationship comes into your life, or you're like scouted for modeling, or somebody from, I don't know, the real estate company says, hey, why don't you come and take my real estate class and start selling houses at my firm? And all of that stuff, it's like the universe basically sends out a helping hand via another person to make you, to show you what like transcendence, whatever we want to say, is really like. Okay. So that's possible. And those can all be really healing experiences that kind of reacquaint you with your own personal essence, because that to me feels like the key to this oncoming year is the acquaintance, or being acquainted with your own personal essence, and not trying to recreate other people's essence within yourself. This is a big struggle, where people see someone that they like, or they know someone who has projected in a popular way, and they start to try to recreate that projection. It's very prevalent and abundant right now. And what you see is a kind of a lack of originality, or a lack of, everybody trying to recreate that same body shape, or everybody trying to recreate that same outfit, or that same diet regime, or that same business model. And it's like totally, and everybody suffers because there has to be originality. That's what people like. That's what creates success, is some degree of originality, at least. And I think that we're all struggling with that, perhaps, like the degree of needing to recreate and losing contact with our own personal essence through that process, which is what leads to these chaotic things like having no money, having no time, having no having more, but having less by having more at the same time. You know what I mean? So just reacquainting yourself with your own personal essence seems to be the key to overcoming it. Okay, everyone, let's move on. I'm going to move on to the second chapter of this video, which is just going to be a combination of like talking about Aries season, not just the astrological new year, but Aries season itself, and some of the transits that we're having as well. Okay, so Aries season is really, really significant this year. So significant, I can't even paint it to you guys well, but the psychic image that I get for this time period of March 20th to around April 20th, April 21st of 2021 is like when you're at the eye doctor and you're looking your eyes into that machine and they're like shifting through to see like what lens is right for you, and like it's blurry and then all of a sudden it's clear. Like that's kind of what's going on. I feel that there's such a powerful shift in vision, in clarity, in attention to detail. during this Aries season that's kind of like that, okay? Where maybe for a long time we've been looking through a very foggy, lens, and all of a sudden we find the perfect lens. So there's a great opportunity in this Aries season, and why this is the case is because we're starting out Aries season, the astrological new year, with the sun right in between Venus and Chiron. So, March 20th, I'm just animating the chart backwards. Bear with me here in real time, guys. March 20th pulls us into this point where we have the sun at 0 degrees of Aries. That's the astrological new year point, the equinox point. We have Venus at 29 degrees of Pisces. And that's an interesting kind of combination of death and life energy. Okay, so Venus at 29 degrees Pisces is about the romance of endings, the romance and enjoyment of certain ending phases. It's really mitigating the sharpness that many of us could otherwise be feeling right now, like, oh my God, I've lost everything. Oh my God, this business is over. And it's reminding us that as certain things end, as certain things dissipate, new space is created, of which we can then channel into new, more appropriate, more authentic ways of being. So Venus is really sitting with us at that 29 degree, at that anaretic degree of Pisces, which is a very interesting energy with the sun being there and Chiron and Neptune being close by within 10 degrees. Chiron and Neptune both within a 10-degree orb of Venus and the sun. Many of us are using this time to completely release pain from old love relationships. That's definitely possible. Finally seeing that it was never you that was really hurting that much from that betrayal in the past. It was your need to societally experience heartache and pain and betrayal because that's like romanticized, seeing that those people that you had convinced yourself that were like out for your best interest, or those people that you convinced yourself were like your soulmates or your twin flames or your other parts of you, were never that. And that that was all a desperate attempt to disconnect from your own self. And there's this really incredible ability right at this point of this astrological new year. And this is powerful stuff. This is kind of like fire and brimstone stuff right here, actually, where you actually see that it has never been about that other person. It has never been about that other relationship. It has never been about other people maintaining you. What has actually been at play has been a self-disempowerment regime within your own doing, okay? And what this point gives us with Chiron and Neptune being right on the other side of the sun and Venus conjunct at that sort of death-life point of 29 degrees Pisces and 0 degrees Aries, what that gives is a rebirth of the self and a death of complete reliance on the other, okay? Really, really powerful stuff there. And knowing that that process is taking place where majority of us are really revamping our philosophy on like the self and the other, who am I in a relationship? Who am I when I'm single? Who am I when I'm in solitude? Who am I when I'm in a crowd? And those varying tones of expression becoming more one tone instead of variable is what I kind of feel that to be in a nutshell. That comes with a lot of, catalyst experiences for a lot of people to trigger that into place. So as you're hearing this, you might kind of take the easy way out instead and just kind of understand, okay, I'm actually creating a much more wholesome identity for myself. And what can I do to really help myself along that process, along that path, of creating a more accumulative self-expression, self-identity, instead of something that's so layered and complicated. And that does give a sense of emotionality to the entire Aries season ahead. Of course, we are in all planets direct, which I also made a video about, throughout the entire Aries season, which is such a blessing. And that's why these types of progress are coming through right now, is because there's not really any lingering past thing that's going to fling itself upon us, I don't think. I think that this is all kind of new territory that we're standing in. And do we like that? Do we like what that's comprising of? Do we like the franchise, essentially, that we're creating ourselves? Do we like the beginning point that we see right here, and where does it ultimately lead us? Where are we going with it? Do we like it? We have a lot of creative capacity over the levers of expression and progress forward and path work, okay? And as we come out on the other side of Aries season, again, there's been a huge shift. There's been some type of slight bit of clarity that really defines certain edges in our life. And we get to this point where we undertake quite a large Taurus stellium. Right when the sun finishes up in Aries and moves into Taurus, we have Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Uranus all direct in Taurus. So huge shifts in value, huge evolution in value, huge evolution in material experience of your world coming on, which we'll talk more about when Taurus season comes along. But what I will say is that things actually get a lot easier. Things get a lot more simple. The complexity level really diminishes by that time. So with that in mind, this last point here, right at the astrological new year, last bit of March, when we still got Venus in Pisces and Sun moving into Aries, that is kind of a final call, a final opportunity to do that painstaking work, to really sit with the past, to really sit with those traumas, to really sit with your negative or difficult dynamics as a person before there's an evolution into a much more compact, much more organized but simple procedural type of reality, where that really grand, overwhelming sense of deliberation will start to fade a little bit, and there's going to be more of a need to make a choice, or more of a need to choose, do that business or don't do that business, do that degree or don't do that degree, save or don't save, money. There's going to be more of like a do or don't type of attitude that comes in, and not so much middle ground of like, well, if I do this and I deliberately do that and strategize around this, and then many years down the line I can do that, but by choosing this now, I have to really think about my time here. And that whole drawing board, strategic chessboard experience is going to become less prevalent, and it's going to be more of a quick decision time, okay? Especially moving towards Taurus season when we're still in all planets direct. I'm sensing a lot of people just really have big turnover in their lives. Life is lived very differently. The mechanisms and mechanics of our life become hopefully more optimized and more calibrated, but certainly different. And also our levels of value really go up. So it is a good time for a new business launch, okay? During all planets direct, it's a good time for at least new ideas or new plans around that, while we still have this sort of deliberative energy on the other side of it, here right at the beginning of the astrological new year. And ultimately just mantras or philosophies around self-empowerment are really important during every Aries season, okay? Understanding that in order to pioneer, in order to move forward, in order to really embrace that Mars energy, that can be a little bit reckless sometimes, and it can sometimes have consequences too. So it's like, what is the best thing to do? To just always play things safe and never really get out of your comfort zone and have an amount of security, or to move into, new territory and push forward and get into a area that you don't have any experience with, and maybe be a little bit of a toddler in that situation and have a few falls or have a few issues, but nonetheless grow, okay? So growth versus stability, very Taurus type of battle, is going to be coming up now. And which do we want? Do we prefer stability or do we prefer growth? Because I don't feel that they're totally synonymous right now. And I feel that one really does have to be not necessarily chosen over the other, but focused, okay? Growth or stability. There's no wrong answer, but it seems that everybody will focus one or the other more, all right? And one way or another, try to really embrace that Aries energy, have fun with it, enjoy athletic things, competitive athletics are really good, running, running a 5K, preparing for a marathon, I don't know, whatever it is that you do. It's a very active energy. Aries energy does not really do well with too much cerebral stuff. like it's much more body oriented, movement oriented. So these are like very simple Aries season things that can help you out a little bit. Like try to really be in the body, try to really look at your impulses as well. Like, what do you want? Where are the desires? And are you on that path, or are you preventing yourself from desires? That's always hard during Aries season if there's something that you want, but you won't let yourself have it. Again, also being able to distinguish between wants and like false wants as well, like thinking of addictions. We might want to satiate an addiction, but that is not necessarily a great thing to follow through on. Although maybe that's really appropriate to like change career, or it's really appropriate or timely to level yourself up, in which case you would want to follow through on a want like that at this time with all planets direct. Though again, there can be a kind of like a what have I signed up for feeling, or a what have I done, but it does ultimately lead to a really good result, I think, and it's going to be really empowering to see the progress that many of us have made by the time we get to Pluto retrograde at the end of April, as the first retrograde after this all planets direct time. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much. Check out my Patreon page. It's linked below. Try out the Keen service as well if you're looking to find an advisor for any topic. That's linked below also. But I have T-chats going up every week, weekly forecasts. I talk about the week ahead, and I do viewer requests also. And this go out every single Saturday on Patreon, and only on Patreon. So check that out and sign up if you haven't had the chance yet. Thank you all so much for making it through the video. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that red subscribe button, and do like and comment on the video if you get the chance. It's really helpful, and I just love reading what you guys have to say and if it resonates for you. So I like to see your opinion and what resonated, what didn't as well. So let me know below, and I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful transitional point into the astrological new year. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.